Good evening, everyone. Welcome in on a Wednesday night. Wednesday night means Florida State Talk here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So we welcome you on in. Hopefully you've joined us for the first 21 episodes, but if not, you're here now. That's what counts. You're here now. So lock it in every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time for the best in Florida State football talk, featuring Jason Parker of Chop and Logan Robinson from Knoll Game Day. Logan, at some point I will work on something for you.
Yeah, that would be nice because I feel left out. I feel really sad.
Logan, don't feel left out. Maybe I'll give you top billing. I will consistently give you top billing starting next week because
sounds good.
Jason gets the thunderous.
Yeah, he does.
Cat. No, alphabetical order. J before L. C before N. Chop versus Knoll Game Day. Wait, we've done 21 episodes of this?
22.
We're on 22.
We've done 21 before, so we can legally drink now. Logan, you can legally drink now. Mazel tov to you, sir.
What do you think's in this? A little bit of vodka, cranberry.
Wait, you're drinking vodka and cranberry before an IM playoff game? Come on, man.
I'm getting pictures. Half of our team is at the bar right now. They're actually at Gordo's right now. So they're eating at Gordo's. Really not. And we're facing an undefeated team tonight. So it's not looking great. But they also they're 4-0. I did some analysis because on there they do stats and everything now. I am flag football. Their last 3 games though have been against 2 1-3 teams and a team that's 0-4.
Because nothing helps you win a football game like croquetas. I mean, that's pretty much what helps you there. See, Mark, what we're doing here is we're trying to deflect and take as much time to not talk about what happened on Saturday. We're going to talk about everything else in the world but what happened in Salem on Saturday. So I had a great week at work here. Everything was going great. I mean, it's hot down here. It's been a hot pattern. How's it going in Tallahassee there?
It's actually very cool. We're looking at a cold kickoff at 9:30. It's going to probably be around 65, 70, 65, yeah.
What else can we talk about for 57 minutes?
Jason, thanks for filling me in on that. I could not see through the smoke and mirrors. I couldn't do it otherwise.
You're welcome. No problems.
Logan, we're going to run an over-under starting next week on how long into the show we have to go before Jason says Mazel Tov.
Oh, I can go say the first words. What are you talking about? I'll say the first sentence.
We went like 13 seconds this week.
No, we went 2 minutes. I'm looking at the clock up here. We were about 2 minutes. Next week, it's within the first 10 seconds. I guarantee you. I'll interrupt you, MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. That's how.
What's the over-under on that?
Oh, 10 seconds. Under.
Oh, it's 10 seconds into the show, and it's also about 152 times during the show that you will interrupt me.
I'll put a lot of money on that. Can I put all of this? Can I put this laptop on it?
140. Why? So it gets stolen again? Come on, man.
No.
Come on.
Real quick before we move on to Bucknut 66 asked, Logan, did you get a pick last week? I didn't get a pick, but I did get 2 of our only touchdowns. Caught 2 touchdowns. Clapping would be nice. Thank you. One was a deep ball. Thank you. Perfect. And one was in coverage in the end zone. I felt really good. And yeah.
Only 55 more minutes to go. Come on, guys.
Maybe Mark can bring up some fun stuff he did this past weekend.
Some fun stuff. Hopefully coming up this weekend. So maybe you could send some of those football highlights and inspire the boys in Tallahassee.
I am
in the locker room.
I've gotten a couple calls from not college, but we're looking ahead and scouts in the NFL, and we'll see if I'll be able to do this on Wednesday nights, or if I'll be in a city somewhere playing for an NFL team.
We'll see you next Wednesday. Don't worry, look.
Well, yeah, maybe we'll see. Depends on tonight.
All right, Mark, it's your turn. Why don't you rip us a little bit? Go ahead. We know you're paid for it. Go ahead.
There was a time in Florida State football history in which Wake Forest was just kind of a walkover. Then you would look ahead and go on from there. And even if you looked ahead, you would still win that game by, 4 to 5 to 6 touchdowns. Those days are long gone. Even though Florida State came into this game against Wake Forest with, I believe, a 7-game winning streak against the Demon Deacons, although Wake Forest has been, you could argue, the better team over the last couple of seasons. I took in this game, and on the condensed version, went play by play, and I gave it a bit of a synopsis there on my channel. 20-20 Wake Forest. How'd this happen, Logan?
I have no clue what's going on offensively. I don't think Florida State has quarterbacks right now. And there's a lot of talks about going to Jordan Travis, but I don't see that happening. And the only time that we'll probably see him is garbage time, honestly. But Alex Hornibrook will probably, he should get the start on Saturday, but I'm still wouldn't be shocked. And I said this last week, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if Blackman's a starter. I think, I don't know what Kendall Briles is going through right now. I know we've been hearing talks about Willie Taggart and both of them mixing up their play calling, but it's just not working with whatever they're doing. The far side screens just don't work. Definitely when you're running them on third downs, they never have, they never will, whenever there's no blocking on the wide receiver unit. And then defensively, I think they've done a better job. I mean, they kept Wake Forest, one of the highest scoring offenses, down to 22 points. And after a while, the offense has got to get moving. I don't know what has declined with Kendall Briles and the play calling, but it's not working out whatsoever. This one's definitely on the offense, in my opinion. And this also, they've got to figure out the quarterback situation. Of course, I'm glad that they didn't throw in Hornibrook, and I don't think they really should have. I mean, the highlight of it is that two things. Blackman missed Keith Gavin off to the side. They were running a very quick, was a 4th and 2, 4th and 1. They were running the play very quickly, and they went off to the right side with Cam Akers, and we've seen that happen before, but Blackman didn't read the field, didn't take time to read the field, and Keith Gavin was wide open. That was one of the highlights. That was all over social media. And then the other one was, of course, James Blackman not being able to handle the ball in the rain, and it slipped out of his hand multiple times. But James Blackman is mentally out of it, in my opinion. I don't know what's going on with him, but we know he can play better, and he can play smarter. His deep ball, I don't know what's happened to that either. You know, we were excited to see how he was. He's gained some weight. He said that he feel like he could throw the ball better long. But some of these balls are too short for his wide receivers sometimes. Some of these should be an easy 6 points, but they're way too short, and it's not giving their wide receiver, or it's way too deep. He's just not on it this year. So I don't know where this team. I'm very concerned. Honestly, I don't care that Syracuse hasn't won a conference game. I'm very concerned about this game on Saturday with Dino Babers and what Corey Durden talked about today, saying, I mean, that might not be a big deal, but Syracuse will print it off and put on their lockers saying that Syracuse was a good team last year, and they're different this year. So we'll see.
It is a big deal, and Corey Durden needs to shut up on this one. I love him to death, but he needs to shut up. I mean, I'm sorry, we lost. And first of all, I love how the comments are just constantly flying by, and I love how Mark stops right on Kyle Pickett's comment right there when he comes to me. As far as what happened is, I think what depressed me the most from that game was the fact that it was like watching the Boise State game again. It was like watching the Virginia game. You know, the Clemson loss is the Clemson loss. Clemson is who Clemson is. But it is like, this is a team that almost regressed back to the first few weeks of the season when we were asking the same questions. You have a halftime lead, and then you fall back. As far as the quarterback situation, and here you go, Mark, if you want to get your breaking news graphic ready on this one, Willie Taggart is wrong. Willie Taggart was wrong to start James Blackman in that game, and I think you will see James Blackman start against Syracuse, and that is the wrong decision. And it's not because I'm a huge Alex Hornibrook fan. It's not because I think Alex Hornibrook is a much better quarterback than James Blackman is, but right now he is a better quarterback. Right now, James Blackman is not playing like the quarterback of the Florida State needs for this program right now. You look at that game. Yes, he threw 2 touchdown passes. One was basically a prayer that he threw up to Cam Akers that Cam Akers showed out, and Cam Akers had a hell of a ball game. Shout out to Cam Akers in that ball game. And the other one was the one pass that Tamorian Terry decided, I'm going to actually catch this ball. His receivers had a depressing game in that one. But the bottom line is James Blackman did not play well. James Blackman has not played well in the second half virtually the entire season. And this time, it was also the first half that he did not play well. Now, for those people who want to go after Willie Taggart as a coach, saying he should be fired, he should never gotten the job, here's the problem with that argument. Willie Taggart is a very good coach. Willie Taggart was a good coach at USF. He was a good coach at Western Kentucky. He was a decent coach at Oregon for the one season he was there. The problem with a lot of Florida State fans, and I'll say that there are a lot of bad FSU fans, just like there's bad Florida fans, Miami fans, bad Ohio State fans, bad Kent State University fans, bad everyone fans out there. For every school, there's a lot of fans who just like to talk without knowing. There's a lot of fans, shout out to your golden flashes there on that one. That's why I said that there for you, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Back to my point. There's a lot of people who think that like you said, and when you alluded when we started talking about this game, how there used to be a time where beating Wake Forest was easy. Going 8-0 in the ACC was easy. Going undefeated and winning championships was easy. This is not the dynasty era. This is a different era of FSU athletics. And it gets kind of muddied a little bit by the fact that they won a national title in 2013 and had the 29-game winning streak. This is not that same team. So if you're going to get rid of Willie Taggart, who are you going to bring in? There's been all the bogus arguments of, they're looking at Urban Meyer. I heard one, we're looking at Brian Kelly from Notre Dame. There was one after the 2017 season, they should throw all their money behind Nick Saban from Alabama. Where in the hell do you people think that Nick Saban's going to leave Alabama to go to FSU? Where in the hell do you think that Brian Kelly's going to leave Notre Dame to go to Florida State right now? Florida State is a dumpster fire because of the way the previous coach, Jimbo Fisher, left it. And Willie Taggart was expected to come in and just go, okay, it's going to be fixed right away. It's not going to happen. Florida State still has the potential to win their next 4 games. That's a fact. Are they going to win them all? We're going to have to see how that turns out. But they have the potential to go into the Florida game 7-4. From where they are right now, that is a hell of an upswing. So that's why I am concerned. I will admit I am concerned after seeing us lose to Wake Forest because I feel like it regressed back to the first 2 losses of the season. Am I willing to sell this team for 2019? No. And anyone who wants to, go ahead and leave. Because this team has the potential to be 7-4. And who knows? I'm gonna sound crazy to the Gator fans who are watching out there, but there is a chance, like in any rivalry game, they could end up going to Gainesville and beat Florida. Should they right now? Probably not, but anything can happen. So if this team is 8-4 after the season, are people going to still want Willie Taggart fired? No. Go ahead, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
Willie Taggart has not done a good job at Florida State. I don't think there's any question about that. How much should he bear the brunt of the responsibility? I think it's shared with Jimbo Fisher because we know that the program was not at the conclusion of 2017 in the shape that it was in 2014, 13, etc. So Jimbo Fisher's an excellent football coach. We know that he can do it. We know that he lost engagement in the program. He soured on the program. He soured on his situation, both from a personal and a business standpoint in Tallahassee, and a lot of relationships went bad, and his coaching suffered. And therefore the program suffered to a certain extent. I still think that Willie Taggart has not done a good job there. I would give him in the D range. If I was grading Willie Taggart, I would not call him a very good football coach. Now, if we're going to rate football coaches across the country and we're going to go down to the 8th grade level, sure, Willie Taggart's a good football coach, but Willie Taggart's making $3 or $4 million a year to coach a top 15 roster, and he hasn't been able to field a top 40 or 50 football team. So he's not doing a good job.
So if they're 7-4, let's say they go on this 4-game winning streak. They beat Syracuse, beat Miami, beat Boston College, which I think is the closest game to a game they could lose out of the next 4 games, and they beat Alabama State. And we're having this conversation the week after the Alabama State game, and they're 7-4. Are you going to say the same thing about Willie Taggart?
What am I going to say about Willie Taggart if he wins the next 3 national championships? We could play this game on and on and on and on.
You answer my question. Please.
I'm going to put him in the Hall of Fame if he wins 3 consecutive national championships. Wow. Play the next 4 weeks and go 4-0. I'll give you one right out of the gate. You beat Alabama State, I think. You beat Alabama State. And Logan knows the team as well as anybody, and he doesn't feel that confident against Syracuse. And Syracuse is a bad team, and Syracuse should not play within a few scores of Florida State, even in the shape that the Noles are in right now.
Logan's drinking before a football game, so let's talk about Logan and his football.
He's drinking before
Mike,
the football game.
Let's talk about it.
All right.
Cranberry vodka. Yeah. Well, one thing, going to like the difference between Jimbo and Willie Taggart, which we're starting to see very easily, is the discipline and how that is affecting this team. You get a lot of guys that are from South Florida. I mean, Jason is around those high schools too, but something that Jimbo did very well was be very strict with these guys. He set down the law, and that's how it was. Maybe not at the end of his time there, but for the most part of his career, he set down the law. He was a very strict coach. I would hear a lot of stories. One of my good friends is a son of Jimbo, so I'd be around and I'd get to see how he was firsthand with solo dolo with Jameis Winston, who was by far an incredible player, one of the best college football players I've seen in person. But I mean, ripping the living out of Jameis for just the smallest things. But I mean, he made sure he set guys out to be leaders, and that's something that I think this team is lacking too. He would make sure Telvin's keeping guys accountable for missed assignments. LaMarcus Joyner would do the same. Offensively, of course, Jameis, but even Rashad Green, who we heard publicly say during his time at Florida State, he said, I used to be so quiet, but man, when I had to step up, Jimbo Fisher said we needed you to talk to your guys, make sure you're not missing any assignments. But he put guys in places to step up and just put be accountable. And that's something that I think this team is lacking in a big part. There's no leaders. Of course, Florida State's lost a lot of their big talents on defense, the season-ending injuries, but there's got to be there. I don't see any leaders right now. And, we saw, which is a true freshman, Dante Lucas before the game. I don't think it's that big of a friggin' deal. I mean, I think it's a big deal, maybe because of the record and, it's Florida State, Wake Forest. He shouldn't be doing that maybe, but shoot, I mean, a little bit of fire under him. I mean, he was talking, and unless he was saying some things that were way too uncalled for, I mean, we saw Timmy Jernigan doing that before games, and his jersey was all the way up to his breast. I mean, I don't have too much of a problem with it. I don't know what he was saying though, but I mean, I know Taggart came up and said something to him, but I don't know. I mean, this team just seems they're all on different levels, and they've got to get on one line in order for them to be successful, I think.
And I'm going to agree with you on that one. If Dante Lucas, if FSU isn't going into that Wake Forest game at 5-1, nobody gives a damn that he's over there jawing with the Wake Forest team. It's the fact that they were 3-3. He had no reason to be jawing when they were 3-3. I personally don't have a problem with it. I love that in football, both college football and the NFL. I think you should be able to talk. I think you should be able to celebrate. I'm 100% fine with that. But that's where the heat is for that one. But I'm going to disagree with you on one thing, Logan. I've covered this team since the end of the buy-bound era, so in the middle of the buy-bound era, in the middle of the 2000s when I was a student, then working in television down here in Miami. Jimbo Fisher is – I'm going to say it. Jimbo Fisher is an overrated coach. And I said this when he was winning the national title in 2013, because that 2013 team, the best team in college football history, was guys that were not recruited by Jimbo. Jimbo is a real-life version of Bud Kilmer. For anyone who's seen the movie Varsity Blues, he's a real-life version of Bud Kilmer. And he there's a word to describe him, but I'm not going to say it here right now, but it starts with an A and ends with a hole. I'm just going to leave it like that. That's what Jimbo Fisher is. You've got guys who were recruited by Mark Stoops when he was defensive coordinator. The guys who were brought in by, I believe it was, DJ Elliott, Eddie Grant, all these assistants who then left. They got head coaching jobs. They got coordinator jobs, and they left campus. And then you're stuck with guys like Charles Kelly. You're stuck with, I'm going to say it, Lawrence Dawsey was the quote-unquote offensive coordinator. But that's the problem, is that when Jimbo had to start taking more of a position, you saw it's, hey, I'm going to recruit based on stars. I'm not going to recruit based on talent. And I've said this before. Give me a 3-star player from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, Orlando, Tampa area over a 4-star or a 5-star from New Jersey, from Illinois, from Pennsylvania, from all these other places. I'm sorry. Stars don't mean anything if you don't produce on the field. Cam
Cam
Akers is producing like a 5-star player.
First-round NFL picks don't mean anything until they produce on the field. You could say that about anything until they produce on the field. You're going to give me all the 5 stars in the country, and you take the 3 stars from Florida. I will beat you 48-10 consistently.
Logan, are you marking this down? That was one interruption from Mr. Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
I got my pen.
It's 152-1.
As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Just kidding, Mark. I love you, buddy. Is the fact that you when you recruit just based on stars, and that's all you're recruiting on is, oh, look at these great recruiting classes. You're recruiting based on stars. You are not going to get star results. You need guys with work ethic. There were a lot of guys on the 2013 team who came in. I'm sorry, Devontae Freeman was not a 5-star running back and played like a 5-star running back in 2013. So that's the problem, is that you have these guys, you have this great recruiting classes in 2016, 2017 that have turned out to be hot garbage. Now, once again, Willie Taggart deserves a decent amount of the blame for what has taken place the last 2 seasons. He has not performed. The team was 5-7 last year, and the team right now is under 500 in 2019. That being said, my argument is that you cannot give him all the blame, and you cannot give Jimbo Fisher a pass for what took place at the end of 2017. It's not blaming the FSU disappointment on Jimbo. It's saying that Jimbo left this place a dumpster fire, and people like Dennis Wilson want to sit here and blame Willie Taggart for everything. We're not going to go into details why a decent amount of the old school FSU fans want to blame Willie Taggart, but I think you all know what it is.
Let's see. There was one question on here about
his staff is bad and players are underdeveloped.
Logan, you take the question, and then I've got a comment to make about Willie Taggart.
Willie Taggart is 49 against Power 5 team in 55.
Real quick, just to make it Jesus, once again, the same question I asked Mark Rogers. If we are talking 4 weeks from now, and once again, I get that it's a big if, but if this team is 7-4, are we still hating on Willie Taggart the same way we're hating on him at 3-4?
Okay,
we are.
If we're going to take the evaluation to a certain point in the season, and we're going to take it within 1 game of the final of the season, let's take it all the way through the season. So I want to see the Florida game too.
Okay.
So I want to see the Florida game, and I believe unless they pull off a major upset, they'll be 7-5. Even in your scenario, they win 4 consecutive games, beating teams that they generally should beat. Who they've got? Alabama State, they've got Syracuse, they've got Boston College,
and
Miami. They should go 4-0. Most likely they go 3-1 because there's a probability of a slip up there, because look at their track record over the last 7 plus 12, 19 games under Willie Taggart.
I'm not shocked with 3-2.
If I had to put my money on it, they're going to go 3-1 the next 4 games, and they're going to arrive at the Florida game at 6 and what would that be? 6-5.
Right.
That would be if somebody held a gun to my head, or I had my mortgage on the line, I'd say they're going to be 6-5 when they play Florida. They're going to lose. They're going to go 6-6. And no, that's not a train wreck disaster type season, but it's not a good season with that roster and not coming off 5-7 last year against a fairly weak schedule, not a horrible schedule, not an atrocious schedule. I'm not saying that, but the ACC's weak. Florida State schedule's strong. Boise State, Florida out of conference, that's very strong. And Florida State has always scheduled a very difficult non-conference schedule, and I've always credited them with that. They've never been discouraged by the matchup that they are set and tied to with Florida. Like a lot of schools across the country, when they've got that out-of-conference matchup against a very tough school, they say, well, that's our tough game of the year. That's our tough non-conference game. We can't schedule another one. Florida State has never done that, so I've always given them a ton of credit as a program to say, we'll go out and schedule somebody else. Alabama, Boise State, whomever, we'll schedule that other game, and we'll play 2 really tough games.
And you got to give Florida State a little bit of the reason why I'm going to be the eternal optimist here out of the group. It has nothing to do with me graduating from FSU or covering the Knowles. What is the fact of you look at the matter? Yes, 3-4 sucks right now. I'll be the first person to admit 3-4 sucks, and I believe you're absolutely right. There is a legitimate chance Florida State loses one of the next 4 games and goes into Florida with a 6-5 record. But I'm the eternal optimist in the fact that you look at last season, through 7 games, they were 4-3. Their last games included Clemson, Notre Dame, and Florida. All 3 teams played New Year's 6 bowl games, and 2 who played in the playoffs. They won 1 game by 1 point against Boston College. Now this year, you've got a Syracuse team who's 3-4 and has lost 2 games in a row. And I'm sorry, their quarterbacks have gotten sacked. more than James Blackman's gotten sacked. So I think Florida State wins that one. You've got a Miami team who, and I'm not just ripping on Miami on this one. You've got a Miami team who, if they lose to Pittsburgh, has lost back-to-back games against a Georgia Tech team that was 1-5 going in that game, and then on the road at Pittsburgh, and they're going to be 3-5 coming into Tallahassee. Then you go to a Boston College team who's lost their quarterback for the season and has been down from where they were last year, and then you've got Alabama State. So that's why I like the chances that Florida State goes into Florida 7-4. So my question is this: if Florida State goes into Gainesville on November 30th, 7-4, I'm asking you, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, yes or no, will you give Willie Taggart credit for that 4-game winning streak right there? Will you give him credit and say Willie Taggart did a good job over that 4-game streak?
I don't have to give him credit. The record will say that he won 4 consecutive games.
That's no.
I think he should beat him. With FSU's talent, it's not even close, and how it should be. Like, I wanted to give him I wouldn't say great job, Willie Taggart. I think those are games that you should be winning, definitely with who you brought in with Kendall Briles and, Ron Dugans from Miami.
So, Jason, unlike you, I need to see the season play out. So I will make an evaluation right now, but I'm not going to make a what if kind of in between. So what I'm saying is that the first time I answered your question, I said I would want the extra week to watch the Florida game. What I expect Florida State to do against Florida is lose, but be competitive. And to me, I know that the bottom line is winning and losing, and we've covered that ground before, but there is an evaluation to be made when your team goes out and plays a top 10 team and loses 34-23. And it's a good game. You're still in it with 5 minutes left. It's a competitive game. And versus going out against Florida and losing like you did last year, 41-14?
Correct.
No, I don't want to see that. That should not be credited to Willie Taggart as any kind of successful season. If you lose, even if you win the next 4 games and you lose to Florida and go 7-5 and you lose to Florida by 4 touchdowns.
No, but that's fine. What I'm saying is that I want, if Florida State wins their next 4 games and goes 7-4 into Florida, what I want is the same credit for something good happening to be given the way the same venom has been thrown. And I'm not saying by you, Mark Rogers, but I'm saying a lot of the critics, especially in the FSU fan base, who have thrown venom towards Willie Taggart for what has taken place. If you're going to throw venom when bad things happen, you need to give credit when good things happen. That's
what kind of credit do you want for beating Syracuse, Boston College, Alabama State, and Miami? Now, if you win those 4, 3 of those teams are somewhat legit, top 40 to 60 teams in the country. They're okay. Yeah, you held serve, you won the games. Let me make 2 quick points here, and then we'll move on. Because I want to backtrack on 2 things that Jason said. So I want to make a distinction here. So you were talking about recruiting rankings. So I want to, because I heard 2 different things here. At one point in your spiel, I heard that 3 stars in Florida are better than 5 stars anywhere else.
Yes. If you give me a 3-star player, and I'm going to be biased because I'm going to be biased in South Florida. You give me a 3-star from Miami.
They're not.
Yes, a 3-star from the Miami area.
They're not.
Then a 5-star player from Idaho, because the talent they have played.
There has never been a 5-star come out of Idaho.
I'm sure there's been one 5-star player to come out of the state of Idaho.
I'm sure about that. I don't even think they produce 3 stars, and I'm being serious.
In the history of high school football, there has to have been one 5-star player to come out of the state of Idaho.
Okay.
But give me the state of Kansas. There, you happy? In the state of Kansas, I'm sure there's
basketball.
You're really looking this up, Logan, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you made 2 statements, Jason, and I can agree with the one, but I want clarification on the other one, and I just asked it. You are saying that any 3-star in Florida is better than 5 stars.
No, any 3-star from specific areas. I said South Florida. I said the Orlando area and the Tampa area, which are huge recruiting areas. You give me a 3-star from Miami Central High School.
There's nothing to verify that.
High school, over a 5-star from Topeka Central. I'm just naming a random school. I don't even know if it's a real school or not. But you give me a 5-star from Topeka Central versus a 3-star from Miami Central, from Deerfield Beach, from Orlando Evans, from Tampa Blake High School, whatever. Yeah,
I got you.
Absolutely, 100%.
This is crazy. So anybody on the live stream right now, if you have nothing to do, I've got way too much to do.
You do
on my schedule. But if somebody out there has nothing to do, go from about 5 years ago and take all the 5 stars around the nation and list those players, all the 5 stars out of the 49 other states, list those players, and then take all the 3 stars out of the counties or areas that Jason just listed, and let's compare those 2 lists of players.
Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, I'd say Orlando.
All the 3 stars, just 3 stars.
And Hillsborough. Right, I'm saying
against the 5 stars.
If you get because if you're a 3-star from Miami,
against the Kyler Murray's,
100%. If you're a 3-star from Miami Central High School, you're playing against Miami Booker T. You're playing against St. Thomas Aquinas. You're playing against big schools, as opposed to a school in Kansas, as opposed to a school in Arkansas, as opposed to, and yes, I have a Florida bias, 100%. I'll admit it. Just like I'm sure you have an Ohio bias.
There's nothing bias. I'm telling you to take all the 5 stars from the 49 states, other states, versus the 3 stars in the areas you're talking about, and there's not going to be a comparison between the 2 sets of lists.
For next week, I will have a list for you. I promise you.
Okay. Wait, can we wait before I get this screenshotted and sent to somebody? I had never said this right below us. So whoever wrote that must be drunk.
So what I think happened here is that Jason was making the comment and asking me, Mark, if Willie Taggart wins the next 4 games, will you give him credit? And then I countered with, well, what if he wins the next 3 national championships? And Diehard Noel has commented, made the similar comment 3 or 4 times, trying to catch my attention, I guess. No, I'm not saying Willie Taggart's going to win the next 3 national championships. I'm saying to give him some type of credit for the next 4 wins for the next 4 weeks. Why don't we just take it to the nth degree and say he's going to win these national championships?
I was not saying that he deserves a parade down Tennessee Street, down Pensacola Street to Doak Campbell Stadium. What I said was the same.
Syracuse, Alabama State, Miami, Boston College.
Let's see.
I am worried about
he can only win the games in front of him. So yes, I would give him credit and say Florida State should have won those games, and they did win those games. And there are teams all over the country every week that are not winning games that they should win. So I would give Willie Taggart credit for winning those games and saying, yes, a top 15 roster beat teams that are 50th in the country. Yes, except for Miami. Those are similarly matched teams.
By your same argument, the loss to Wake Forest was when Wake Forest was ranked. The loss to Virginia was when Virginia was ranked. It was ranked until last week. Were they not? Yes or no?
They were ranked, but you're taking a Wake Forest team that, from a recruiting standpoint, isn't close to Florida's roster. And Dave Clawson has built a ranked program, a ranked team out of that.
I agree with you that Florida State should have won that game, and Florida State should be pissed that they lost that game. But your argument was Florida State should beat Syracuse. Florida State should beat Miami. Florida State should beat Boston College because they're a better team. By that, using your argument, then it's okay that Florida State lost to Virginia and Wake Forest because they were ranked. I don't agree with that, but by using your argument, that's what you just said. Well, I'm sorry, Logan. I'm keeping you awake over here. I apologize.
Okay. Oh, no.
So let's get past that, because there is one distinction to give Jason some credit here. There is one distinction there's one part of this that I did agree with that I just want to clarify. And that's that if your criticism of Jimbo Fisher recruiting to the ranking is correct, yes, a coaching staff should have their own evaluation, their own mold, their own idea of what type of player they want for that particular position, what type of student athlete they want. And regardless, even if that's going to move their recruiting class from 5th to 7th, and it doesn't look as good, they go out and get the individuals and the players and the student athletes that they're looking for that fit their program, regardless of that, and they recruit to the program. And if he wasn't doing that, shame on him, then that's a bad approach. That I can agree with.
Logan, your thoughts?
My thoughts are that Florida State plays Saturday against Syracuse, and I'm the one here that thinks in Gainesville, I don't think it's close.
Right now? No, I agree with you. Right now, if the game was played right now between Florida and Florida State, Florida would blow us out. No, there's a question about that. That being said, remember this, you still have a Florida team that has to play Georgia on the 2nd, and they could get beat up by Georgia. They still have to go to Missouri. I know it's, people are going to say, oh, it's just Missouri. I believe they still have to play Vanderbilt. I believe that's who they play in between Missouri and Georgia. So they still have some games there that they could get a little roughed up and beat up. Do I think right now, as much as I hate to say it, and this is going to make me want to vomit, do I think Florida beats Florida State at the end of the year? Yes. Do I think it's going to be a close ball game? Absolutely. For Willie at this point, though, I think he does have to take it one game at a time, and we've talked about this. This has become the most important game. You beat Syracuse, then you can focus on beating Miami. You beat Miami, then you don't get swept by your rivals again. Okay, you're 5-4. You have a little momentum. You go up to Boston College. If you win that one, get a decent road game. All of a sudden, you've got 6 wins. You're bowl eligible. Then you've got Alabama State. Then you've got a little momentum. And as you know, being in Tallahassee, and I know, being down here, you're a student. I'm a grad. We've seen plenty of times where Florida State should have beaten Florida, and Florida's won the game, and vice versa. So all I'm saying is anything's possible, and if anyone does not believe that's possible, ask Georgia State how they did against Tennessee this year. It's all I'm saying.
There's a lot of magical things that can sometimes happen, but I don't know. I think Trask is a better player than Felipe Franks. I don't think he's so damn emotional like Felipe is, and so drama needy, what you want to say about it. I think Trask is gonna say bye to Felipe, and I think he's a problem for Florida State. I don't know. I really, and I think this Saturday too. I mean, Dine, I still think Babers is a decent coach. The season hasn't gone like they had thought it would, but this is every team plays Florida State like it's still their Super Bowl, no matter what the record is. They like seeing that they beat this logo. And it's good for them. And Dino needs this win too. He really needs it. And I think they're going to compete very hard with FSU. And I mean, any kind of FSU fan wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. I mean, it's planned for a homecoming game, but this is once again. I mean, my gut feeling told me that Florida State would lose to Wake Forest, but I predicted them that Florida State would win, but I had already made my prediction earlier last hour, and I'm going with my gut once again, but it just depends on where it sways.
Guys, I've got 2 things for you, and then we'll cut Jason loose.
You're picking Syracuse, aren't you?
We'll see.
Oh, Logan. Yeah, sure sounds like it.
We'll see.
It sure sounds like it. All right,
we'll see.
Who am I picking? Well, you can get my Week 9 college football predictions by texting MR Football to 760-670-3130. My record against the spread last week, 14-7. Makes you a lot of money. Do the math. If you put $100 on every game, you lost $700, but you win 14 times 90.
MR Football.
I think you're making about $600 on those picks. 14-7 against the spread last week. You get my Week 9 predictions. Text MR Football to 760-670-3130, or you can just go down in the description section below and grab the link next to Voice of College Football Community. One other thing before we cut Jason loose. Actually, 2 other things because I've got to make my recruiting point again. MiamiMoneyball.com. So what you do there is this is a fantasy site that's based on Miami, Florida State, and the Miami Dolphins. You go in there, you pick the statistical categories and make predictions on whatever game of your choice to win all sorts of good prizes that you will see on the site. And I'm on there playing as well. So see if you can do better than me in predicting 12 statistical categories for those particular games and teams. Okay, Jason, just as a precursor.
Hold on. I just texted that number and it sent back Mazel Tov. What does that mean? Did you do that?
It means that you are everywhere and control everything.
Well, anyway, moving on.
So this is just a precursor, Logan. We'll let Logan be the judge of just this small sample size. I went back to 2016 and I thought, okay, let's look at the top 10 5-stars from 2016 that do not play in the state of Florida. Not that those guys would even count because we're only counting the 3 stars. So let's see. Rashawn Gary, he was an All-American. He's gone on to the NFL. Dexter Lawrence, one of the great defensive players in the league, going on to the NFL as a first-round pick. Greg Little, first-round pick out of Ole Miss. Shea Patterson, starting quarterback in Michigan right now. Jacob Eason, starting quarterback at Washington. Ed Oliver, a top 10 pick in the NFL draft with the Buffalo Bills. Levante Taylor, you guys are familiar with him. Nick Bosa, pretty good player, like the number 2 or 3 pick in the NFL draft. Those are our 5 stars.
How many titles?
That's just scratching the surface.
You're right. How many titles were won out of the group? I know Dexter Lawrence, but how many other guys won titles?
Titles? What are you talking about? Winning titles?
The 2013 FSU team that we were talking about earlier when we talked about 3-star players and that era of guys working harder and it being more about your work than your stars, which is where this whole thing started, where our whole argument was that you can take 3 stars who work harder than 5 stars. And the problem is Jimbo started recruiting just based on stars and based on ranking position. That's my argument. So let's look at that 20.
My argument is I just listed the top 10 5-stars from the 2016 class, and they're all NFL players.
They're all making money in the NFL right now, but only one of them actually won a title. So what does any of that – once again, stars, it's a great thing. They're all getting paid, and there's a lot of 5 stars from the class of 2019.
How many guys win titles?
2013 Seminoles, last year's Clemson team, everyone from Alabama basically this decade.
So 90% of the Ohio State team in 2014 came from the state of Ohio. Okay.
Ohio's a great state.
That's high school talent? No.
Where's your 5 stars from Idaho? That's what we said. We said Idaho.
No, you said Idaho. I said Idaho has never produced a 5-star.
I swear to God, I'm going to Google Idaho 5.
I will put $100 on that. They've never produced a 5-star. I guarantee it. All right, let's get back to Syracuse and Florida State coming up this Saturday. The Syracuse team was the number 2 seed in the ACC last year, and obviously embarrassed Florida State. I believe that score was 30-7 at the Carrier Dome. But Dino Babers is a guy that I like, a guy that seems to be a pretty good football coach, but he's not had the greatest season. So a lot of people thought this Syracuse program would kind of take off after 10-3 last year. And I just don't necessarily know that they have the recruiting footprint, the facilities, the resources, or dare I say the coach to do it.
For Dino to do it, to beat FSU?
Just to be a good program, a good team consistently at Syracuse.
Okay. I got you. I thought you mean like I was about to say, I mean, if Wake Forest can do it, I'd give it to Dino Babers. I mean, and this game is going to be pretty interesting. I don't know, and Jason's going to be triggered, but no,
just pick Syracuse already. Jesus.
No, I don't know what. Well, I'm not picking yet, but what I'm trying to do, like 3 ways Florida State can win this game. So obviously, Cam Akers, your best player on the team, has got to have a good game. They've got to be able to block for him. Like we were talking about Dante Lucas, a lot of people aren't happy with what he did, but he's also before the game. But he's also a true friggin' freshman, and he's your highest graded offensive lineman right now. So I don't give a F what he does. Sorry, oops, my bad. Sorry about that. A frig. But
you're good with the F.
Yeah. There was that. But, I mean, he's the true freshman, and he's playing better than any of your other offensive linemen. Sorry, but he can do whatever he wants, and fans shouldn't be whining about it. And the only reason we knew about it is because it was on ESPN, and people complain about ESPN and their hatred towards FSU. Well, you're giving ESPN a lot of attention by saying, whining about Dante Lucas doing that. It's just what players doing. He was getting hyped, and I don't really give a crap. Anyways, blocking's got to be well for Cam Akers. Got to figure out the quarterback situation. I don't think it will be figured out this season. So this has got to go on the shoulders of Kendall Briles and how he calls this offense. You can't be throwing far side screens where you're not going to make any gain with it because there's no blocking. I don't know how they haven't learned from last season, and Kendall Briles didn't see that last season, but that's where I think Taggart must have came in and called some plays because it looked too much. It's starting to look a little bit too much like last year. Number 3, still, I'm not too worried about the defense right now. I think the next one's going to be not hurting themselves because they've been on a pretty decent streak of not hurting themselves, penalizing themselves, and silly mistakes, except for Amari Gainer's incident where I just knew that was coming, where that was what was unsportsmanlike, personal foul, penalty. I just knew that was going to happen. But in order to stay in this game, they cannot penalize themselves. And I think I'm kind of fine with how this defense is doing. I mean, Joshua Kendo, your best defensive end, is out, and for the whole season, and then also Lars Woodby is, and I kind of like how a lot of these young guys are getting in. I cannot remember his dadgum name, 44. Who am I missing? True freshman or 40. No, McCray, or Gant's getting in.
Shouldn't have had
Um,
that down.
yeah, I think he's a physical guy. But there's got to be they just cannot hurt themselves or shoot themselves in the foot for this game. Cannot penalize, because in order to be able to, I just think Dino Babers is going to bring it this weekend. He needs this win.
For me, I feel like there's an advantage and a disadvantage to remembering last year. I think there's an advantage to knowing what Syracuse is capable of. Last year was a point where Florida State, I mean, it was a different time of the season. It was the third game of the season, but you had a Florida State team that had gotten blown out by Virginia Tech and then won ugly against Samford and was supposed to win that Syracuse game handily. You had a Syracuse team that many people did not know about, or people did not have a lot of respect for, and they ended up working it behind Tommy DeVito, who, by the way, will be starting for Syracuse this week. That being said, if they're playing too much out of fear like last season and fear of what happened last season will happen again. Florida State has to live in 2019. Florida State has to live in this moment. This is the most important game. Getting to 4-4 is the most important game for them, because without this, Miami game doesn't matter. Boston College game doesn't matter. We joke about the Florida game. None of that matters. A win here is what matters. Florida State has to go into next week's game of Miami 4-4. If not, Florida State is in desperate situation. Just like ABC and ESPN are, for the fact that they're even thinking about making that Florida State-Miami game the primetime 7:30 game. Can we take one moment? Sorry, Mark. I know. We're not going into details about your job, but let's talk about this for one moment. ABC, ESPN, please do not make the Florida State-Miami game the 7:30 game on November 2nd.
They haven't asked me.
I get it. I look at the schedule. You got Florida, Georgia's on CBS. I think it's USC or Utah, Washington, or is it Utah, Oregon? One of the big Pac-10, Pac-12 games is on Fox. There's no other real games out there, but come on. You have the potential, if both Florida State loses to Syracuse and Miami loses to Pitt, to have 2, 3, and 5 teams that you're even considering to make the national primetime game just because of the name of how these teams were the best teams in college football 10 years ago. Come on, guys. Seriously.
They're obsessed with having them on FSU versus Miami. They must get them some good ratings.
Listen, we've been joking about it down here all week that the game's going to be on at 9:30 in the morning on the local Fox affiliate down here, or the local PW. They're going to edit Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but come on now.
They're hilarious.
Down there on that one. 3:30, let's do it. 3:30, middle of the day. Let's get it done.
Yeah, 3:30 would be nice.
Yeah.
This is what I did see out of your team against Wake Forest. I saw Cam Akers just playing out of his mind. So this is the Cam Akers I saw a couple years ago, and as I complain on here almost every week, I haven't been able to see a whole lot of Florida State football because of the selection of networks. Speaking of networks that the Florida State games have been on, so I've had to resign myself to watching the condensed version with all the plays, which is a good way to go. You watch a game in like 35 minutes, you see all the plays. But I just thought Cam Akers I was just extremely impressed. I forgot how good he was just watching him spin off guys, break tackles, the burst, the energy, breaking countless tackles behind the line of scrimmage and picking up positive yardage. I thought he was pretty amazing in that game. And the other thing, your red zone defense was really good. He gave up some yardage, but this Wake Forest offense, like Logan said off the top, is no joke. It's one of the top. After Clemson, is it the second best offense in the conference?
Statistically, it's the second best.
It is, yeah. And I think realistically it might be. And you guys held him down, kept him out of the red zone. I'll let you go here in a second, Jason, but you did a nice job there. And I thought you had a couple explosive plays on offense that showed off like Tamorian Terry's skills with the 35-yard touchdown reception. That was exceptional. A few plays here and there, but just the continuity and the consistency on offense not there. And you got away from Akers. I know he carried the ball 30 times, so you didn't really get away from him. But there were a couple times it looked like you got away from him, got a little fancy when he was just tearing it up.
Well, the problem with it is this. Yes, Cam Akers has balled out. Cam Akers, by the first half, by halftime, had more yards in 6.5 games this season than in all of last season. That to me is I mean, yes, he obviously has a hell of a lot more carries, but that right there shows you the fact that when you give him the ball, get things done. The problem with that is he can't do it on every single play. And that's where the downfall of James Blackman the last couple of weeks has shown the biggest problem with the FSU offense, with the Kendall Browse offense right now. It's great that Cam Akers is getting all these yards, but unless you have a quarterback to offset it with a decent passing game, a decent, consistent passing game in both the first half and the second half, then the defense is going to know what to do. Even Alabama State's defense will know what to do. No disrespect to the Hornets, but that's a fact. So as good as Cam Akers is, that's why you need a quarterback who can balance things out. And right now, I don't think it's James Blackman. That's why I think Alex Hornibrook should start against Syracuse.
Mm-hmm. I'll go with that just because we only have 8 minutes left.
Oh, come on, man. Let's get your prediction. Let's go ahead.
Wait, we're doing score predictions now?
No, not yet.
Jason's producing the show now.
Okay, back to number one, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Mark's argument. Yes, thank you, Kyle Pickett. Mark's argument is just to try to shut up the knowledge that comes from ChopChat.com, your source for FSU athletics. That's fine, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
You put that up there.
I really think Kyle Pickett's like your cousin or somehow related to you, Mark.
Or it could be him. Whenever we're talking, he is typing away.
Kyle Pickett.
Yeah.
Pickett sounds like a good name. Nobody's going to make that connection.
Nope.
This is Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is what we do every Wednesday night is we talk Florida State football live here at 7 o'clock Eastern time. So don't be selfish and just enjoy it yourself. Bring your family, your friends, your social media acquaintances on in. Let's build up the audience. The Super Chat's available to you to help contribute to the channel, along with a number of other options, including the Amazon link in the description section below. Get my Week 9 predictions. Grab the link in the description below next to Voice of College Football Community. 14-7 against the spread, dare I say, would make you a lot of money. 14-7 against the spread last week and 58% against the spread on the season. Thank you very much, Jason. And that's what we've got for you. Again, Miami Moneyball. Go on there and play some fantasy games. You win a ton of great prizes if you love not just Miami, but Florida sports. All right, I guess we're setting up for predictions. I will state that if you want my prediction on Florida State Syracuse, and I did pick the game both straight up and against the spread, then you'll have to go to the link in the description section below. But we'll tee up Jason for his look at the Syracuse at Florida State matchup.
First of all, MiamiMoneyball.com, because we're doing so well on football down here in Miami. But let's move on from that one for a moment. I think that my heart says Florida State wins this one convincingly. My heart says Florida State is going to find the dominance against the team that they should beat. I believe they're a 10-point favorite entering as we talk right now on Wednesday. I think that they have the capability to be somewhere in between what they did against Louisville and what they did against NC State as far as the type of win. My head has seen this story play out before. My head has seen Florida State play down to the level of expectations against teams they should beat handily. So I do think Florida State wins the game. I think Florida State has a decent lead and Syracuse starts to come back in the second half, but I think Florida State does enough to stop them. I'm going to say Florida State 31, Syracuse 24. And by the way, just for the record, so far we're back to 2013. Idaho's had 2 4-stars in 2018, and they had a 4-star in 2014. Logan, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Florida State 23, Syracuse 27. I think Dino Babers gets his first conference win of the season. I just have a gut feeling. I had a gut feeling last week, and I should have said it on here, and I feel embarrassed now, and now my record's
Look at this.
And I don't know. I just have some kind of feeling. I don't think Florida State has quarterback play right now, unless Cam Akers saves this team and they can put up some points. I don't know where this team's at right now. I don't know where this coach is at right now. I don't know where some of this team and thinking that they're undefeated or just have one loss, but it's just, I don't know where this is headed. There's just too much rumor talk that was going on. I don't know how it was like during this week and where the guys' heads are at, but I do think Florida State will have a very tough time with Dino Babers and the Syracuse Oranges on Saturday. I know Dungy isn't here. He's not there with Syracuse anymore, but I think this is all on Dino Babers. I still think he's a very decent, very, very nice coach.
I'm so mad at you that a feather fell off the Bollywood autographed spear. I hope they test you guys for alcohol before tonight's game and you get disqualified. I hope your teammates threw up all their croquetas they ate tonight at Gordo's. Shout out to Gordo's.
No.
Tallahassee. I hope you experience the sorrow that you just gave Mark Rogers TV and I, Mark Rogers TV, and Jason Parker, the voice of ChopChat.com, for picking Syracuse. It's not that we're mad, just disappointed.
I know.
I like how Jason puts me in that of possibly being upset about your prediction about Florida State and Syracuse.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be thinking about this all night. This is me up.
Let me give him this face.
Oh, no.
As everyone
that needs to be the thumbnail
out, Jason's already done it. As a number of people are pointing out that they're trying to find these 5 stars in Idaho, and they found a few 4 stars. Let's understand the context. There's
thank you.
Exact facts and statements. Then there's also context. So understand that if you're able to, and I'm telling you, you won't find a 5-star in Idaho back in 1998. If you find one, basically, my point is still proven. You had to scan decades to find one 5-star. This is my point. If I'm watching a baseball game and I say to my son, this guy's a 300 hitter, and they bring up his average and it's 298, I'm basically saying the guy's a 300 hitter.
I got a 4-star in 2012 right here.
Yes. Find all the 4 stars you want.
I plan on it. I got nothing to do tonight. My Yankees are out of the baseball postseason, so what have I got to do tonight? Logan's going to go to the football game. What do I care?
All right, everyone. We appreciate you stopping by for Florida State Seminoles Live. This has been our 22nd edition. I encourage you to check out Noel Game Day with Logan Robinson and also Chop Chat with Jason Parker.
No arm breaks this week.
Nice. Moving along.
Yeah. That's good.
Thanks
to check
that out.
Excellent. So keep it locked in right here for Miami Football Talk next, right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And we'll be back here at 7 o'clock Eastern time next Wednesday.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.